Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we have another Getting Started with Age of Sigmar 3rd edition video for you, and today we're going to be looking at how to get started with the Bonesplitters. The Bonesplitters are one of the multiple sub-factions of Orruks that make up Orruk Warclans, and while the other two have some fantastic ways to get in them in a version of a start collecting box for the Iron Jaws and for the Cruel Boys, obviously all the Dominion and starter set boxes, the Bonesplitters do not have any of that. So we put together this video to sort of talk about how you can get started with these cool, savage, feral versions of the Orruks. And so, in this video, what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to go about talking about what their allegiance abilities give us, what the army as a whole gives us, what it can do on the tabletop, and then we'll go looking at units we can use to start off this force, and then we'll look at how we can expand that with other units in the army, and then lastly, we'll show you a little sample army list to get your brain sort of thinking about how you might build your own Bonesplitters force, or indeed, you can just copy ours if that's what you would like to do. But let's get cracking, and let's talk a little bit about what we get with Bonesplitters. And so the first thing we get with Bonesplitters, I guess that separates it from the other Orruks, is that we just get numbers, bodies, lots and lots of bodies. While the Iron Jaws are generally tougher and you've got like better armor saves and generally better attacks as well, and the Cruel Boys sort of have all the tricks with stuff like mortal wound output and some cool little combos with models here and there, the Bonesplitters really are an army that just pretty much works on winning by numbers. So lots of bodies is definitely the first one of these numbers, and this is pretty cool because a lot of Orruks are 2 wounds, so we can get lots of 2 wound bodies on the table. Bonesplitters also have exploding attacks and ward saves, and exploding attacks, once again, this just gives us numbers. So if the unmodified hit roll for an attack made by a melee weapon from a Bonesplitters is 6, they score 2 hits instead of 1, and you make a wound roll for each one. In addition, the entire army just has a 6-up ward across it, which is nice. We don't have that much armor, so any death player will tell you a 6-up ward saves them games time and time again. This is a really cool rule to have. Now, in general, the Bonesplitters do have much lower quality attacks than their 2 Orruk counterparts. While generally, you probably can put them, I guess, on par with Cruel Boys before you start adding the Cruel Boys tricks, the Bonesplitters don't get a lot of those tricks and those sort of mortal wound output and that sort of stuff. They just get lots and lots of dice. And so you've got all these low quality attacks, but you do have them in very high volume, and you can really do some work with that. Just throwing so many dice at your opponent, they're bound to fail saves, and that is what Bonesplitters are all about, getting as much dice to your opponent as possible to make them fail as many saves and as many whatever as possible. It's all about just throwing overwhelming numbers at them. And so let's look at how we can get started with this force. And so, to start off with, I don't think there's a better hero to go grab for your Bonesplitters than the Savage Big Boss. This is a pretty cool model. He's starting to maybe show his age a little, as is the Bonesplitter Rain in general, but I do think they are really cool models. So, we've got the Savage Big Boss. He's got a decent basic sort of profile, 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, Ren 1, damage 2. I mean, he's going to put out some decent work. He'll get rid of cheap chaff screens all by himself. Now, he's got a cool ability though, Let Me At Him. Now, after this unit has fought in the combat phase for the first time, you can pick one friendly Bonesplitters unit that has not yet fought in the combat phase, that is within 3 inch of an enemy unit, and wholly within 12 inch of this unit. That unit fights immediately. This is really cool because it allows you to get all your attacks out of like 2 of your big units. So you can put this guy into like a chaff screen, and you've charged into the chaff screen with the Bonesplitter units as well, and they're then going to get to pile in and attack hopefully whatever is behind the chaff. You can do some really cool combos with him and a decent unit beside him. Him sort of fighting, bringing one of his buddy units in, and they get to attack the juicy unit behind that you're actually wanting to hit. Speaking of units, I think going and getting a Savage Orruk kit is definitely the way to go. Now, you do have multiple different ways to build these. First of all, you've got Savage Orruks, and they've either got chompers or Savage stickers, and they're pretty cool. The other option is you've got Savage Orruk Boys, which have 2 hand weapons, or you've got the Arrow Boys, which obviously have bows. Now you can build any of these from the same single kit, and in fact this is the same kit you'll get your big stabbers out of as well, though there is going to need to be some slight conversion work, and you'll need to replace a couple of models in the unit if you build big stabbers, but that's pretty easy to do. You could easily go onto eBay and find a couple, or convert up a couple of these savage big bosses, which can be pretty cheap because they are just one of the old plastic clan pack heroes. But anyway, back onto the Savage Orruks. I recommend just building the standard Savage Orruks to begin with. Main reason for this is your only generic battle line. You're having to unlock all the other units in the army via battle line ifs, playing in particular sub-factions and stuff like that. But this unit's pretty cool. You've got Primal Surge, where you add 1 to the wound rolls for attacks made by this unit in the same turn it made a charge. Once again, you combine this with the Savage Big Boss. He charges, clears the chaff screen. They then get to use his ability, pile in behind, and get +1 to wound against the juicy unit behind that you're actually wanting to fight. This is a pretty solid start for a Bonesplitterz force, and it's definitely the way I would go. Next up, let's look at units we can bring into the fold to sort of give us a little bit more versatility. So first one I've got here is I've got the Wardog. The Wardog's pretty cool. Now, first of all, he's an Orruk hero. So yes, while he is a wizard, forced to hit on 1 attack, 3 to wound, rend 1 damage to 3, he's okay. He is pretty generic for a wizard compared to a lot of other Orruk sort of heroes. He's a 1-cast wizard, 1 dispel or unbind, and he's got a cool ritual dance ability where at the start of the hero phase, instead of attempting to dispel an enemy spell or cast any spells with this unit, he can do one of the following dances. So he can pick one friendly Bonesplitterz model within 12 inches of this unit and roll a dice, and can heal D3 wounds on a 3-up, or on a 3-up he can add 1 to save rolls of a unit, or on a 3-up, he can add 1 to the casting and dispelling of a friendly wizard nearby. Now, obviously, he's generally going to be better when you've got an additional wizard, but still, I think healing D3, keeping that big boss alive to allow you to sort of get him to work in tandem with a unit around him, or keeping, the Wardog himself alive is nice as well. But the +1 to save is nice as well. Like, he's got some solid abilities. He's also really dirt cheap. When you compare him to the other wizard option we're going to talk about, he is really cheap. He's almost half the cost. Next up, we've got the Big Stabbers. Big Stabbers are one of the coolest things, I think, in Bonesplitterz. They're literally 2 Orruks hurling this giant big stabber at the enemy. So 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend 2, damage 2 is really nice, but they've also got a cool ability called the Final Fling, where each time the model in this unit is slain by an attack made with a melee weapon, before the models are removed, you pick 1 enemy unit within 3 inches of the slain model and roll a dice. Add 2 to the roll for every enemy unit if it's a monster. On a 4+, the enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds, as they sort of, in their final death throes, hurl this thing through enemy units. These things can do a lot of damage. Rend 2, damage 2, and 3s and 3s with 3 attacks is really solid. They don't come in very big units, but these are a great shock troop for your Bonesplitterz. You just got to protect them. Next up, we've got the Savage Boar Boys, and like the generic Bonesplitter box, you've actually got 2 options here. You've either got the shield and sticker option you can see here, which is just the generic Savage Boar Boys, or you've got the Maniac Boar Boys, which have 2 hand weapons and forego their defense for getting a little bit more offense out there. Both of these units have some cool abilities, and so you've got the Maniac Fury on the Maniac Boar Boys, where you add 1 to the attack characteristic of their chompers, or when they've made a charge move in the same turn. And then you've got the other unit as well, which gets its own little cool rules, which is pretty sweet. So you've got some cool stuff here to do with your different versions of the Boar Boys. Lastly, though, I want to talk about the Wurgog Prophet. He's your other wizard option, and he's generally a little bit better a caster and a bit better a model than the Wardog, though, as I mentioned, he is almost twice the cost. He can cast and unbind too, which is really solid. And you've got some really good spells inside the Bonesplitterz lore. Now, Wurgog Mask is also a cool thing where he effectively can stare at enemies and sort of make them suffer mortal wounds, but he has the potential to cause himself mortal wounds if he stares at them too long. And his War Scroll spell, Fists of Gork, is casting value of 5 and a range of 24. Successfully cast, you pick 1 enemy unit within range and visible to the caster, and you roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit. For each 6, they suffer a mortal wound. If the casting roll was a 10+, the unit suffers a mortal wound for each 4+ instead of 6. So if you can get a decent cast on him, maybe putting the Wardog near him to chant and give him +1 to cast, you could get some 4+s to do mortal wounds on a big unit is pretty solid. And so that's my suggestions for units to both get you started with and how you can expand. Let's look at a little sample army list we put together to sort of round this all out. And so here we have our little sample army list. Now, first of all, we've gone for a 750 point army. This is a great point size just to get you started and get you into the game. You can definitely expand upon this later. And so, Warclan, we've gone for Icebone. Icebone really sort of works well with Bonesplitters. Now, you have the exploding 6s to hit, but what Icebone gives you is any unmodified wound roll for an attack made with a melee weapon by a friendly Icebone model. That's a 6, does a number of mortal wounds equal to the damage characteristic. So, this is going to work well. You're going to be able to explode attacks out, and then you're going to be able to get some mortal wounds out of those exploding hits as well. Works really well together. Grand strategy-wise, Predator's Domain, I'm not really sure that there's a better one for Bonesplitters. I think this is just good, just spreading your units out and allowing you to sort of play the game across the table and just try and take terrain at the end of the game after you've done some killing. It's probably the best one. And then for a Triumph, seeing as we are 50 points under, we're going to go with Bloodthirsty Reroll Charge because we just don't want to be failing charges with this army. Savage Big Boss is going to be our general. He's going to have the command trait Great Hunter. Now, what this one gives us is the Savage Orruks get a pre-game move in their army. He, effectively, with this ability, will allow them to extend how far that pre-game move is from 5-inch to 8-inch. This is pretty cool. Your Tireless Tracker's ability. So after deployment, but before the first battle round, half of the Bonesplitter units in your army, rounding up, can move 5-inch normally, but now they move 8-inch. This is great for just getting into position a little bit better. He's then got a cool artifact called the Lucky Stone, called the Lucky Bone, and this gives him an additional +2 to his ward save rolls. So he's going to have a 4-up ward save base, which is pretty solid to keep him in the fight, because he doesn't have that great an armor save. We've gone for a Wardog here, just because we are slightly lacking in points from elsewhere. As soon as you start playing higher, I would probably try and get in the Wargog Prophet before the Wardog and then add in your Wardog second. But at the start, Wargog, he's going to give you some magic. And we've gone for the spell here. We've gone for Power of the Werebore. This is a really good spell. So Power of the Werebore, casting value of 6 and a range of 24. It successfully casts you. Pick one friendly Bonesplitters unit, wholly within range and visible to the caster. Until your next hero phase, add 1 to run and charge rolls for that unit and add 1 to hit rolls for that unit, but they can't shoot. I mean, pretty good because you don't even care if you're putting this on a unit. You're wanting to run and charge and fight in combat, so you're not wanting to shoot anyway. Battle line, we've gone for 20 Savage Orruks with stickers and reinforced. The reason why we've gone for stickers here, yes, they don't have as great a profile as the other weapon options. However, we're going to get more attacks. We're hoping to just get exploding 6s and then get mortal wounds out of this unit, thanks to our Icebone ability we've got here. So the stickers are 4s and 4s rather than 4s and 3s. But remembering, we've got Primal Surge, so on the charge, they're going to be 4s and 3s anyway. Other units, we've got a unit of 5 Savage or Boarboy Maniacs. This is just going to be sort of a shock troop. And then we've got 2 Big Stabbers. This unit will sort of run around, sort of trying to be a little bit of a shock troop and a little bit of extra damage against any higher armor targets that we're not managing to get rid of with the Savage Orruk unit. Everything here is wrapped up inside a Battle Regiment Battalion, meaning it's a 1-drop. It's pretty easy to get a 1-drop in 750 points if you build your army right. Total, as mentioned, 700 points out of 750. You can maybe throw an Endless Spell in here if you really want to get some more out of that Wardog. There's definitely some options there you can play around with. We've got our 1 out of 1 reinforced units, no allies, 74 wounds, which is really, really solid for this point value. I've done a lot of these videos now, and believe me, 74 wounds is extremely high. Most of these videos generally go about 40 to 50. You're about another 50% almost on top of about the average of what these sort of armies will contain. It's a 1-drop army, as mentioned. If you've been playing with Savage Orruks in the new edition with the new Orruk Warclans book, let us know in the comments below how you're going and what you're doing at low points games or even high points games. Give some ideas to people reading in the comments. Let us know there. Well, that's the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you'd like to, you can come over and chat more with us here at Sinful Gaming and our fine little community over on Discord. You'll find a link to that Discord in the description of the video. Lastly, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel via Patreon and YouTube members. And if you'd like to help support the channel via Patreon or YouTube members, you can do so by one of the links in the video's description once again. But a special shout out to all our patrons: Christian Weir, James, Soren, Chaos Spawn, AJC, Kenny Lyle, Outer and Shop First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Q Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, and Dynet226. And another special shout out to our YouTube members, Greenridge Gaming, Kenton Young, Steve T, The Real Zeop, Chris Wallace, Turo12, Vinny, Lockloric, Matt Mollin, Becca Kinski Groupie, and the Johnny84. And lastly, a definite special shout out, first of all, to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork for the channel, and to Xmorphic, who does all the background work for our Discord server, keeping everything there running smoothly, because I am completely computer illiterate. Thank you very much. But that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe again. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.